Hi, good morning. A very warm welcome to all you wonderful listeners out there. My name is Sandeep Gulati, and I'm the founder of Universal Mentors Association. It is an extreme proud moment for our organization to announce that we are adding another feather in the cap of the Universal Mentors Association today, which is our banking and finance sector. The BFSI event is now underway with some of the most amazing stalwarts of the sector speaking today on this wonderful platform. We have Facebook and YouTube live as we speak. You can definitely log on to Universal Mentors Association on YouTube as well as on our Facebook link, so that you could check out the complete session. Any which ways, we'll be sharing out with you the highlights and the recorded sessions of all these amazing speakers that we're going to have. We'll have more than 10 CISOs, CSOs, CTOs from various banks, more than 50 speakers from the NBFC sector, whether it is insurance, whether it is stock exchange, whether it is uh, NBFCs. All of these will be participating today on this wonderful platform. It's an extreme proud moment for us. So before we move ahead, I would like to tell you, I'll just take a couple of more minutes before we go on to our first speaker. Just to tell you a little about the Universal Mentors Association, we are a research based media organization currently catering to the education and now BFSI sector. Soon you will be seeing few more sectors associated with us. But right now we are with this is the first banking and finance digital virtual summit that we are hosting. Uh, we are also having our, the second edition of our magazine launching very soon, called the Source Ed magazine, a premium magazine for the educationist, by the educationist, where a principal from a school basically becomes the editor for that particular issue. And we cover some of the most interesting areas in the education sector as well, but more on that later. Uh, we are also going to launch very soon our web portal, uh, which will be catering to the education and BFSI sector. Will be having a lot of news article, a lot of interviews for all the stalwarts of various sectors that we're going to proceed from now on. Without further ado, it has been a really humbling experience as this last 1 year of endemic. You know, we've been very lucky since 2021, right from the month of May, where we hosted, some really good events. We tried doing physical event in the month of October and then in February, but due to COVID, we couldn't host a lot of physical events. Hopefully, this is the last virtual event that we're going to do, the first and the last in the BFSI sector. Got if everything goes well, we'll be launching our calendar very soon in the month of February for our BFSI sector for the next complete year. If if everything goes right, we'll have all our events physically uh, from here on. So without me taking a lot of time, I know this has been a ritual with the Universal Mentors Association to get the stalwarts of the sector participating, in the conferences that we keep on hosting. So without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker of the day, Mr. Shankar Jadhav ji, who's the managing director of BSE Investments Holding Company of Bombay Stock Exchange and head strategy of BSE. It has been such an honor. Sir, it's our first initiative, and thank you so much for joining us. We welcome you with the folded hands, and it is a humbling experience to listen to one of the most amazing speakers out there from the sector itself. So, sir, I'll not take much of your time. We would love to have your keynote address out here. Thank you so much for joining in, sir. Kindly unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep, and wish UMA all the best for starting the BFSI sector summits. Uh, I would like to thank all my brethren in the BFSI sector because during the last whole 3 years of pandemic, we have seen that it is the BFSI sector which has kept the blood circulation of the economy running. Without the BFSI sector, it would have been difficult to imagine how we would have gone through the pandemic. So I would like to thank all the BFSI people and especially the IT people involved in this, because without the IT support, this would not have happened at all. So congratulations to all to successfully get the economy running, and not only running, but we moved miles ahead of many other economies in the world. Our people have been transacting more and more digitally. The systems have become safer and evolved over time, and even the customers have started understanding things. All this is indicated in the numbers that you can see. For instance, if you see in stock markets, the number of investors has increased multifold with the speed that was never seen before. And the new persons who've joined, the new investors who have joined the stock markets, they understand it better. I'm sure most of this goes to the digital fraternity, the BFSI digital fraternity, the CIOs, the CTOs, the lieutenants, and the soldiers who have ensured that we get a good experience. In fact, when the pandemic started and lockdown was ordered or implemented, everyone was worried what will happen. People wanted to hoard things, etc. That same evening, the decision was taken by the governments all across India, especially the central government, that we will keep the markets running, the financial markets running. So all banks and stock exchanges were kept running. I remember those days when people were asking whether the people used in financial services, working in financial services, are not humans, and should they not worry about the safety and security of them. But let me tell you, unlike physical meetings required by doctors, the healthcare staff, and police, the BFSI sector realized that they are not selling or doing anything with a physical meeting requirement. And hence, all services in financial sectors were running. At the same time, though I am congratulating the BFSI sector and the IT in particular, I would also like to say that over the last few years that we have developed the BFSI sector, we have started forgetting our customers. And why I'm saying that is, I do not know how many people who are sitting on the other side of the network really have ever met the customers. Today, the time has come that even in BFSI sector, you hardly go to the bank. You don't even know the banker. The only people who know is the people who have a very high net worths or very important people in the industry. Otherwise, most of the customers have never seen a banker or a bank branch maybe nowadays. Not only due to the pandemic, but because of the systems available on mobile phones and internet. I think we are getting far away from the customers. And when I talk about financial industry, I don't talk only about stock exchange or banks. There are NBFCs, there are insurance companies, there are insurance agents, there are transaction supporters. There's a whole lot of involved internet-based services, financial services that we talk about, which provide loans, which provide payment transactions, etc. The reason why I'm saying is that normally we talk about growth in any sector linked to how efficient we have become, how the productivity is increased, how the costs have come down, and how it is a better service for the customers. I have not seen this happening much in the BFSI sector. Like, for instance, I can assure you that being in the stock markets, I am aware that the stock market transaction charges have always been lower and we have not increased them over the last few years. But you look at digital payments. In fact, the government and the regulators had to step in. And I can tell you, regulators are much, much more forward looking than many of our sector players. The regulators have tried to reduce the frictional costs or the transaction costs as much as possible. But yet, the transaction costs in a digital world have just zoomed past. I can remember people telling me that in the pandemic they had to pay the fees. So earlier they would go and pay the fees physically, and now they are paying digitally. Digital payments were supposed to reduce the costs of transaction. It's not so. In fact, you pay an electric bill, you go and stand in a queue, maybe you have to stand for 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. A person who doesn't have, who has to trade time with money and has very little earnings, would rather trade time with money and he would stand in the queue and pay. Digital payments are very, very costly. Second, we are still doing all payments or most of the payments in English, yes, English is very helpful, etc. There are lots of players who have moved from English to other languages in the country, but we require to do that. Let me step back here and tell you about the regulators. I believe our regulators are very progressive. You can look at RBI world over. If there are central banks which have been pragmatic, RBI would be one of the top regulators. Similarly, SEBI. We had a meeting with the International Commissions of Securities, ISCO, and they lauded our regulators, SEBI and the others, saying that we have not only got good regulation, but we've been implementing them well. And the regulators are not hesitant. If they made a small mistake, they would correct themselves also. So I believe India as an economy will really grow well. But we, as people who face customers, who provide services to customers, have to realize that we have to be more efficient. In fact, the charges should be reduced to almost zero, because as the volumes increase, if you see some of the leading brokerages today, online brokerages, they charge you a fixed amount irrespective of the sum, or they charge you almost zero for some trades. And yet, if you see their top line and bottom lines, they've just soared. These are the companies which will take the world of the future in their hands. Those who still think of charging, they may not make money. You see the messaging services, for instance, WhatsApp. It's made sure that the customers don't pay. They do use the data for various purposes, but the customers don't pay. Why can't the payment industry, the insurance industry, and other industries learn from that? Why should the customers feel the pinch every time they make an insurance premium payment? I still remember the government had to step in to remove the merchant transaction charges for digital payments or credit card payments for insurance premium, for instance. These things, if we don't keep in mind, let me tell you, the BFSI industry will face competition, because I have seen that wherever the customers are feeling the heat, they are not hesitant to change loyalties. A loyal customer is always the one who feels that their organization, the organization it's talking to, has looked at its needs and trying to fulfill the need. And in the financial sector, what better need than almost zero charges? A person wants to earn money or earn returns on his investments, so the friction charges that we take should be reduced. Second is, we do not have adequate grievance mechanisms. Why I'm saying that is, if I see some person who has lost some money in some transaction due to his fault or others' fault or whatever happened, they are just left hanging around in the air. Obviously, all the agencies have their priorities, class A, class B, class C priorities. If there is something that involves, say, millions of rupees, they would not look at some hundreds of rupees transaction frauds. So the customers who are at the bottom of the pyramid are feeling the heat, and they really do not like the digital transactions. Let me give you one more example. Most of the areas outside the urban cities are not very well connected by the net. They may have services, but not internet. And I have been to those places. And it's not that they're very small or transactions don't occur. If you require milk here, you require milk there. If you require banking service here, you require banking service there. But being a rural area or non-urban area, the density of people transacting is lesser. The number of transactions are lesser. I am sure that the digital fraternity can find out ways and means to reduce the costs and provide the service. They sometimes don't have electricity for two days, and you want everyone to transact only on electronic devices is not going to work. In fact, that is the reason why the central bank, the RBI, has really got offline transactions. I am very glad that they took notice of this and it's come. But many times, the digital transactions are not suitable, and the BFSI industry does not understand this. Every customer knows that no organization really works for the customer unless they can get a bigger slice out of the pie. So when we talk to the customers, I do research, and my students sometimes do bring out very surprising points. But every customer knows today that if a bank offers something, it is not because the customer is going to be benefited. First, they see whether they are benefited or not. Otherwise, their management, their boards don't allow. You look at the insurance companies. The term insurance is the best for all people. Do they really try to sell term insurance? I doubt. Look at the term insurance cost, for instance. The costs are so varied. And many times people talk about you take your own decision, etc., etc. In a financial sector, the people are very clear. They want safety of the capital and the return on investments. They want transactions to happen at the lowest cost, and the transaction should go through. If it's not gone through, they should get confirmation it's not gone through and the money is not hanging. They don't lose money. For high net worth people, losing a few rupees, few hundreds of rupees or thousands of rupees may not be a big thing. But for customers whose earnings are very low, even a few hundred rupees is a very major problem. And it's not a problem of only losing the money. It's also a problem of faith in the system. You can see the, for instance, stock exchanges. You will see that if a person deals on a stock exchange, and if there's any problems or issues with respect to the stock exchange systems, we have investor protection mechanisms in which the money is given to them upfront before even the arbitration starts sometimes. Why can't we have something for the payment transaction systems, etc.? Second is, we don't even tell the customers what the charges are upfront. Of course, there are problems like unless you know the amount, unless you know who's transferring to whom, etc., you will not know. But the transaction charges should be known to them. There may be some percentage that is shown. Okay, if you do a deal on XYZ platform, this is the money you lose. If you do it on this platform, this is the money you lose. This kind of education is not given in almost all sectors of BFSI. The stock exchanges and the exchange system, the clearing corporations, mutual funds, etc., have been trying to improve their awareness for customers, but the others, like the payment transactions, the forex transactions, the credit cards, debit cards, people are not aware at all. In fact, if someone loses a phone, what happens? Does that person not transact at all? If there's some fraud on the phone SIM card, we have to give them something for them. And I think that will take the BFSI industry further. Remember, I have talking about these points because there are two things I have seen over the years. The digital people, the people who work back at the backstage and make sure that all these things happen, are not in touch with the customers. Those who are in touch with the customers actually don't seem to care much about the customers. And therein lies the dilemma. We should have more industry customer interactions. We should see what is the problem. I'm sure that everything costs something or the other. But when you talk about volumes, the costs surely go down. When you talk about working with the industry, the cost will go down. Like, for instance, almost all banks or all systems have their own apps. In my phone, there are 20 apps that I have for payment transactions and banks. I am fed up. If I have 4 credit cards, 4 banking accounts, 4 payment systems, why should each one have a different app? When the central bank like RBI has coming up with UPI payments or IMPS payments, why can't they brand the same app with the customer that they have? We have to work towards standardization. In the digital industry, there's lots of standardization and the costs have considerably reduced for the customer. In the finance industry, the costs have not reduced because of this. Which is why I really appreciate the exchange system. Most of the transactions that we do are standards based. The way we transact are standard based. You go to any entity in the system, you will see the same kind of screen, same kind of behavior, etc. But in banks, it is not there. For instance, uh, India has 1/3 of its mobile customers at 2G customers. The 2G customers are not 2G because they don't want to do 3G, etc. Maybe they don't want to spend so much money. They don't have the money. Maybe they feel the net is not good. Those 2G customers can get banking services, and which service was available, say, a decade back. Why can't the banks give today? Like, for instance, SMS pull banking. If someone wants to know what is the bank balance, why can't they just either call the company on a particular number from a registered mobile or SMS and they get the banking balance? There are major banks in the top 5 who don't provide this service. And this is utterly atrocious because what they are saying is, unless you have a smartphone, I will not serve you. Why should a customer not understand his bank balance by a pull? Because push services means if the customer did not see the message when it came, it's lost. He doesn't know. So we have to look at all these things. I will stop here because this whole day today, the sessions are more focused on the digital working of the BFSI. I have just brought out some points where I see that the next year, if I come along again, I should be able to proudly say, yes, our fraternity has understood these problems, have taken care of these problems, and gone ahead, and the customers are happier. The day I see more happy customers, I feel proud about it. That is the reason when we saw that so many investors have joined the stock exchange and are trading and investing in the companies, so many people come into the IPOs. Yes, share market is a riskier bet. So you can lose money, you can make money. It is a different game altogether from other investment places. But we can see that people are trying to learn. So, on this note, where I would like to again thank the digital fraternity, especially in the BFSI whole fraternity, because even though there are some issues, the issues will always remain. Overall, I feel that they have done an excellent work. In fact, in one of the seminars which I was there for the defense systems of India, I mentioned, and the government and the authorities also aware, that today's wars are not only fought on physical ground, but even on the net or even on the digital media and digitally. And we as Indians, and especially the Indian IT industry, has really been capable and have helped our government and the country to make sure that we are not compromised. So kudos to all. Thank you, Sandeep and Yome, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such an enlightening talk. In fact, you made us realize that, we've all been praising, all the good work that has been done, especially by the healthcare workers. But on one hand, where the healthcare workers or the doctors had saved lives of people, I think the BFSI sector was responsible for feeding the people, because without the BFSI sector, without the financial markets working, we could have understood. We have almost 1.5, close to 2 years of complete lockdown situation. On and off businesses were working, people were not having a lot of work to do, but the financial background of the complete economy was taken care by the BFSI sector. So it's time for a huge round of applause for the complete sector to basically get a pat on the back for working relentlessly. And it is a little disheartening also sometimes that the due credit is not given to the banking sector, because of which we've been surviving. We've seen a lot of countries, a lot of economies going down south, as soon as the pandemic hit. There are a few countries, our neighboring countries, for example. I wouldn't like to name them out here, but still, we've been able to grow, not only grow but grow exponentially, with just a click or with just a snap of fingers. We've been able to completely transform ourselves from a complete paper based economy to a complete digital economy. I think one of the most we are, I think, world's fastest growing digital payment systems out here. And I think we are the largest transaction, I think, after China. We are the ones who've been doing it. So thank you so much, Shankarji, for joining us. It's been a pleasure listening to you. We would definitely would love to have you on board on our various events that we're going to have from now on in the BFSI segment. We might be launching one in the month of April very, very soon. So we would love to have you on board as well. Thank you so much for your knowledge and your time, for sharing it us with the peers of the Universal Mentors Association. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. And just one comment, since you mentioned China, you should learn from China. The China has one or two apps only for almost
Yes.
everything. So like a payment system, etc. So that's the point also I made. Thank you very much. Have a good day and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a great day ahead. Thanks.